The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to be here with you on this wonderful Tuesday morning in September. And let me just tell you, I feel like Ed Sullivan. Have we got a show for you? We got a big show. I'm not good at impressions, obviously, but big show. We have shoehorned as much content as we possibly can into the next 2 hours. It's crazy, the list of guests that we have, and I'm going to go over that in a minute. But thrilled that you're here with us, thrilled. And you know, sometimes we have to talk about some difficult stuff, and we are going to talk about a little bit of difficult stuff today, but we always like to balance it, right, with some really good stuff. So we're really going to get that done today, the balance for once and for all, the good stuff and some pretty fun, ridiculous stuff. So want to start by saying to you, welcome. So glad you're here. So glad you're here with me. And please participate. This entire show is meant to be interactive. We want for you to have a say. We want for you to help drive the bus, really. So we're going to show you, Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate. We want you to write in, call in, tweet in, Facebook us, whatever. Tell us what you need, what you're not seeing, what you like, what you don't like, what you're feeling today. Get it all off your chest, right? So Kelby's showing you some of the different ways that you can connect with us. There are many different ways. I'll remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's lots of things to do. Please sign up for our newsletter, and please make sure that you like us on Facebook because that helps us as well. But when you go to the homepage, you can watch the live show if it's the right time, or you could watch the most recently recorded live show, or you can scale back through the playlist and see any show in the recent history. And now to the side of that, there's a series of white boxes. You can put your cursor in the one that says your comments, start typing, hit enter, and it shows up here on my screen, and it's totally free. There is a little bit of a lag. I always like to tell you, ask your questions early in a segment with the guest when you're watching live, because so often you guys send something and it goes up to the satellite and it gets down here right as they've walked out the door. Now we can still ask them, but I so much prefer it when you get that immediate gratification of asking them and then they get to answer while they're still here and you get to hear it right out of their mouth. But for those of you who aren't able to watch the live show, and many of you aren't, please feel free to ask questions of the guests that we've had in. We email them to them and then we have an opportunity to answer that, which brings me to my next point. This is totally free and you're not having to log in to use that live feature to ask a question on the live feature. But what that means, on the good side, you have total anonymity. We don't know who you are. But on the bad side, you have total anonymity. We have no idea who you are. We can't get back to you if you need something. So if there's something that you need, please make sure that you tell us where to get a hold of you. You can give us an email, a snail mail, a phone number, whatever, and then we have a means of having conversation with you outside of the show, which we're happy to do as well. Sometimes that takes a little longer. There is no immediate gratification there, but we get to it eventually. And so be patient and don't be afraid to ask more than once if it's something has happened. And sometimes we have glitches that happen with the live feature. So if you've asked something and it didn't get answered, please send it back in. Okay. So I hope that you will participate with us. As I always tell you at the start of the show, we have many experts that we bring in here, and oh my goodness, have I got some great experts for you today and some very fun people and some wonderful, wonderful content for you. But I always like to start by reminding you that I am not an expert in autism, so let's have no illusions about that. My credential, why I'm allowed to sit in this chair, is because I'm a mom. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. And you notice I grin about that, and it's a happy thing for me now, because it all is, it encompasses so many different things, so many different memories, and so many different people that we met along the way. And I can smile about it because my son is doing so well and has made so much progress. And that didn't happen because I was smart. Didn't happen because I had a bunch of money. That didn't happen because I, had a degree in psychology, because that wasn't the case. It happened because I got good information from people who had been there before me and said, look, did you know about this? Did you know about this? Did you know about this? And then I took some action. I will say that, my husband and I got on it when people gave us advice, but, information, if you don't have the information, what are you going to do, right? It's all not unless you know what's available to you. So part of why I'm here is to pay forward what I got. It's not one size fits all. So I can tell you all the information that I got, but times have changed and it may not suit you and your purposes. But I do want to help to hook you up to what information you need, right? Whether you're a parent, teacher, practitioner, and you're working with an individual who's on the autism spectrum, or you yourself are the person who's on the autism spectrum, I know you got hopes, dreams, things you want to do, things you want to get better at, things you want to help somebody else be better at, ways that you want to be able to look at the world that are more productive. And I want to be able to hook you up to as many resources as we can so that you can make that happen. Is that a deal? That works for me. And I so appreciate when you guys conversate with us because it makes it so much more fun here. And you know what I always say, we get through this together, we hold hands. Si se puede, right? You, me, all of us, we're gonna do everything that we can to get to the progress that we want to see. It's a deal, right? Okay, so we like to start every morning with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out, what does this mean in my life now that my life has a certain amount of it revolving around autism? What does this mean? Okay, and sometimes this jargon can sink your battleship, right? In several different ways. Sometimes it's a term you just never heard of, you have no idea what it means, and there's no easy way to look it up in the dictionary. Sometimes it's a word like today that we certainly have heard of this word before, right? This is no big deal, but does this have to do with something specific with the autism community that could be life and death for us? Yes. And in fact, we've seen this recently, and I'm going to talk about that. So conservatorship is our word for the day. What does it mean? And we're going to be talking about it a lot today. All right. First, we give you an actual definition, then we give you a working definition. So our actual definition, conservatorship, a legal concept in the United States of America where a guardian/protector is appointed by a judge to manage the financial affairs and or daily life of another due to physical or mental limitations or old age. Okay, it's, not the most jargon-filled definition. We kind of get a feel for this, but I don't know about you, but as an autism parent, I don't really know what the ins and outs of this are for me and why I would choose to do this or not choose this. It sounds scary to me. It sounds like, won't my child have any rights? So let's move on to our working definition. Oh, and my whole thing just blipped out on me. Isn't that lovely? Give me 1 second here. We have gremlins this morning. Gremlins, I tell you. Nothing on my iPad is working for me now, but that's okay. I can read it off the monitor. Here we go. Conservatorship. Legal standing is granted to a parent or guardian so that they are able to continue to have a say in an individual's decision-making regarding financial, medical, my shoulder's in the way, legal and or daily living matters. We keep it real here, right? Okay, so you've got a young person who's on the autism spectrum, and there's some things that they can take care of for themselves. There are some things that they are capable of doing, and we don't want to take away all of their rights. Maybe they're able to make their own medical decisions, but that they have a hard time with finances and they have people who are stealing money from them, and it's a difficult situation. We have an expert who's going to be with us a little bit later on in the show who's going to talk about how you do a conservatorship, how, the different choices that you can make for the individual who is turning 18 so that you can protect them. Let's be clear about the fact that conservatorship conservatorship is about protecting someone. If I have a 10-year-old, and I don't, I have an 11-year-old, so let's use that example. I have an 11-year-old. I would never make him responsible for his own living circumstances at 11. That would be crazy. That would be child endangerment, right? And I think we're all clear. And it wouldn't matter whether he was on the autism spectrum or not. If you hear about an 11-year-old who doesn't have an adult looking out for them, I don't know about you, but it creates fear in my heart, like just constriction. That's terrible. Children need to be protected and conserved, right? So that their rights are conserved. But what happens when we have an 11-year-old who grows up and becomes 18 years old, and in some respects, they are an 18-year-old, and in some respects, they're still an 11-year-old? What do we do then? I want to be clear that conservatorship is not about being cruel and taking someone's rights away. It's about making it possible within the legal system to be able to protect them from the things that they cannot take care of themselves. That's really what conservatorship is all about. We just saw last month and the month before a case right here in Los Angeles of Romario Snow, who was here on the show with his mom. And Romario is now 18 years old. And as he and his mom told on the show, and you can watch that whole clip, I encourage you to do that, he had an issue. They were in a store and he saw an image that was so disturbing to him, and he can't see that kind of thing. And it got him so upset that he ran out the door. And his mom was trying to stop him, but she had her two little 10-month-old baby girls with her. Romario ran and he continued to run. And when he stopped running, he didn't know where he was, and his mom didn't know where he was. And he was on the streets of Los Angeles for over 21 days on his own as an 18-year-old. And I can't tell you what his functionality is in terms of age, but it's not what we would want it to be as an 18-year-old who could take care of themselves. And I think that even Romario, with his ability to communicate, did tell us on the show how scared he was and how much he wanted to come home, but he couldn't figure out the way to come home. And the things that his mother has gone through in the last couple of months led us to do this show and talk about conservatorship, because she hadn't done a conservatorship. She didn't know about it. She didn't know how to do it. She didn't know what it was. She didn't know what it would mean for him. And as a result, when the police went to look for him, it was a different circumstance. He wasn't conserved, so he was considered an adult, which means that the process of looking for him is vastly different. And it was crushing to his mom that if he'd been 14, they would have been able to marshal a bunch of resources to go look for him, but because he was 18 and not conserved, those resources were not available to him. So when we talk about this as life and death, we're not just whistling Dixie here. Not only that, when she found Romario, her ability to advocate for him and to find out what was happening with him medically, they weren't allowed to tell her. She took him to the hospital to see, to get some things taken care of, and they weren't allowed to tell his mother what was going on with him medically, because he's an 18-year-old, and unless he could say, yes, tell my mother, and he didn't have enough, he was dehydrated, didn't have enough going on in that moment to say, yes, I'll sign a piece of paper, tell my mother what's going on. So it can be a great detriment if a young person is not conserved, and they've had continuing problems. His mother has been able to have a first row seat, and we've been watching with her all the different legal things she keeps running into because he is not conserved. I do want to say very clearly that we do not need to conserve all of our adults with autism. Or have a complete conservatorship. We can pick and choose about where they need help and support and where they can stand on their own. It is individual. It is not one size fits all. But for a lot of individuals on the autism spectrum, when they reach the age of 18, they still need support. And we can get that legal help for that, to get that conservatorship. And we've got a wonderful guest a little bit later on the show who's joining us from an organization called BetZedek. BetZedek.org. We're going to spell that for you later on. But Yolanda Erickson's going to be with us. She is a conservatorship expert. She's going to answer your questions about how you do it, how you can do it inexpensively or absolutely no cost, and when and why you should do it. So conservatorship could be life-saving. It's something that we all want to start thinking about whether it's necessary, and if it is, making sure that we take the steps to be able to do that. Okay, we always have, moving on, we always have a question of the day for you, something that we like to ask you guys, and I understand you guys have already been writing in droves about this. We want to know, what are you most worried about when your child reaches adulthood? Let's get it all out. Let's talk about it today. Let's talk about what your fears are so that we can come up with a plan for being able to help you with your fears and to be able to help the individual in your life that you're concerned about to be as productive and as safe as they can be, moving out that transition from being a younger person to an adult. It's a very exciting time, but it's also nerve-wracking. So we're going to check in a little bit later to see what you guys wrote in for the question of the day. Like a lot of you, I worry about when my husband aren't here and what is the support for my son. Like that keeps me up at night, right? But eventually we're going to talk about that as well too. Okay, moving on. We always have a topic for the entire week, and we're in a short week this week. I'll talk about that in a second. Our topic this week, though, is transitioning to adulthood. This is a period of time in which we have traditionally seen that we've not had as many resources or as much information. We want to let you know that that is changing every day. There are more and more resources. More and more people are taking the bull by the horn, so to speak. Our first guest that we're going to have in just a little while is an amazing parent who is taking great strides to fill a gap in Manhattan for that transition to adulthood. I think you're going to find him inspirational, but we all need to be thinking about what we need to be doing to make that transition to adulthood successful, either if it's for yourself or for your child, and then what we can pay forward to everybody else. And this dad is an amazing example of that. So we are going to talk about that today and some of the different things that we've got. It's the 7 guests this morning, okay? 7 guests in the next 2 hours. Are you ready to get on a treadmill with me? Okay, so the first guest that we're going to have, as I just mentioned, Bob Epner. He is an autism dad, but he is doing something amazing in Manhattan that you are going to love that has to do with vocational training. We're going to be talking about that with him. I'll tell you what, if we could clone him and make a zillion of him, I would be the happiest camper on the earth. So I'm excited. I've been reading about what he's doing, and I'm excited to finally meet him this morning. Then, as I mentioned, from Bet Zedek, an amazing organization. You can find them at betzedek.org, betzedek.org. Yolanda Erickson, who is an expert in conservatorship, is going to be here talking about it. So that's going to be a hard conversation, right? And I always promise you that when we do something hard, we give you a reward, something really, really fun. So we're going to be closing out the show today with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different stand-up comedians are going to be with us that are involved in a benefit that's happening this Friday in Fullerton, California, with the organization Fullerton Cares, who we've featured before on the show. This is an amazing organization started by an amazing dad, Larry Hauser. Larry's going to be here with us with these 4 comics that are doing this benefit for autism, and one of these comics is on the autism spectrum. I don't know if I'm going to tell you which one, but he may tell you. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to have some laughs. We're going to have some joy to counterbalance talking about some of the things that are hard. So stick with us. We're going to have a good time. It's a roller coaster of a show. Lots of guests, lots of good information, and lots of fun. We'll be right back after these messages.
Learn the early signs of autism today, because an early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Hey, I made your favorite.
With real egg noodles and bite-sized chicken, Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup is the one kids love. Good.
Come and get this on.
Thanks.
Stream your favorite content when you want. AT&T.
He didn't speak till he was almost 5. There's a time when my wife and I didn't think we'd ever have a conversation with him, and now he can build and program computers from scratch. We kind of really consider Reese a huge success story.
Sounds like you got a pretty good dad, too.
Yeah, he is a really awesome dad.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have just a quick news update. After we went off the air on Thursday, I'm sure that you all became aware of a horrible, horrible event that happened. We talk a lot about how important it is that there be acceptance for autism, and we think we're making strides, and then something happens that clarifies that we still have a long way to go, but at the same time clarifies how many people truly care. This is certainly what happened over the weekend when a 14-year-old boy in Ohio who thought he was participating in the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge with a group of, I guess, kids who went to school with him, and instead of dumping ice on him, they dumped feces, urine, spit, and cigarette butts. And the video is available. If you didn't have a chance to see it on Facebook over the weekend, good for you. Don't watch it. It's horrifying. And it came to light when the mother found the video on the boy's phone. He did not tell her and was humiliated. So she went forward to the police, and they have been looking for who the participants were so that justice can be done. And so many of us were so horrified, sickened. I don't know what the right words are. It was just devastating for all of us to hear that this could be done to this young man. Our hearts bled for it. And then what has been interesting is the outpouring of outrage. Sometimes it takes something so horribly unspeakable to galvanize a group of people to say, you know what, this is just really inappropriate. And we have to say out the gate that Drew Carey, who is from Ohio, took the first step up and said this is not okay. And he offered a $10,000 reward for information that would lead to the discovery of who the people who were involved in this horrible event. That has now been added to. Jenny McCarthy and Donnie Wahlberg have now said that they will add another $20,000, $10,000 each, so that it is up to $30,000 now for the reward for the people who were involved in this. I want to say that to the young man that this happened to, that I hope that he in some way can begin to feel the love and support, and begin to have an understanding of sometimes people do wrong and bad things, but that doesn't make everyone bad and wrong. I hope that his family is being surrounded by community members and being given the help and support that they need to get through this really difficult time. I also want to say that when we come up against, I do believe that there is huge ignorance in the world, and that ignorance is something that can be rectified, that we can work to lessen or eradicate ignorance where autism is concerned. I do think that sometimes people are just, I think sometimes people are beyond the point where you can help them. I'm hoping that for these individuals who did this, that's not the case. I hope with all my heart that we can identify who these people are and get them the help that they need. I hope that happens because clearly there is some help that is needed. This was sick. This was wrong. I don't know how anybody could have thought that was a good idea. And the energy that it would have taken to have carried it out, you would think at any moment that they could have thought, hey, maybe this is not the best thing. But anyway, have to say in particular to Mr. Drew Carey, who started this, bravo, sir, bravo. All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by a really spectacular dad who is making a difference every day that he's here on this planet, and I think you're going to want to hear about what he's doing. He's inspirational. Stick with us. Hi. I'm Shannon Penrod, proud autism mom and the host of Autism Live. Autism Live is an interactive web show whose mission is to provide a free resource to the entire autism community and to the world at large. Whether you're watching our live shows on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, or you're catching up on our free podcasts on YouTube, iTunes, and Roku, we want to provide you with the support you need when you need it, and to give you a little hope and inspiration along the way too. For the mom in Kansas whose child has just been diagnosed and she's preparing for her first IEP meeting, we want to provide you with helpful resources to make that meeting as productive and as stress-free as possible. For the 16-year-old in Bangor who writes to us and wants to know, how do you get friends and keep them? We want to give you support and information to make that possible for you. For the teacher in Calgary who wants to know, how do you get past the challenging behavior and help a child to be excited to learn? We want to give you access to tools and education to make that dream a reality. And for the dad in Wyoming whose daughter is engaging in self-injurious behavior, we want to get you access to experts who can help you to keep your daughter safe and to turn that equation around. We know that autism isn't one size fits all. And we know that sometimes you need resources and sometimes you just need to know that somebody is listening. We are. We know from the letters that we get from our viewers every day that we can and are making a difference. And frankly, that just makes us want to do more. In our hope and vision, we have so many things that we want to do at Autism Live, like providing a weekly global peer parent support group, educational programs that are designed specifically for children on the autism spectrum, fun and interactive social and vocational programs for our young adults, and resources and information for pregnant women and for women who are about to be pregnant so they can significantly lower their risk of having a child with more disabling aspects of autism. We can do this. We want you to know that we're fighting hard every day to stay on the air and to be a free resource for you, but we can't do it alone. Right now, we're working hard to identify corporations and foundations and individuals who want to support us in this mission, who want to help us to help you. So join us. Watch the show, ask questions, sign up for our free newsletter, and share what you find here freely. It's important that you do. Autism Live, where knowledge is power and hope is our favorite four-letter word. Welcome back to Autism Live. No one should be allowed to give that much of a close-up for me. I'm suing. No, just kidding. It's horrible, horrifying to see your face that up close. I apologize. But in any case, wanted to take just a quick second to talk to you a little bit about tomorrow's show. And I mentioned that we're having a short week this week. We're not doing a show on Thursday, so we'll be commemorating 9/11 tomorrow with Nancy Alspaugh Jackson. I have some things that I need to do with my son at his school on 9/11, so we won't be here on Thursday. But we're making up for it today. Today is such a big show, it's like 3 days worth of shows. Also wanted to let you know that yesterday, Nancy Alspaugh Jackson and I were able to tape an interview with Dr. Bob Sears. If you live in the Los Angeles area, you probably saw that in the Sunday LA Times, Dr. Sears was featured on the front page, but the headline called him an autism vaccine heretic, which was a very interesting and incendiary title. In any case, we did have a conversation with Dr. Bob Sears yesterday, And there is a short clip from that interview that's on our Facebook right now and on our YouTube page. I encourage you to take a look. It's just a teaser for what we're going to show you tomorrow, the full 20-minute interview that we did with him, talking about this recent story of the CDC whistleblower. And I will say to you that I think somebody wrote in and said, I appreciate that Dr. Sears seems very logical and wants what most parents want, honest research to prove or disprove a link between MMR and autism. This has not been delivered as of yet. What I really appreciate, that's what somebody wrote in just this morning. What I appreciate about Dr. Sears is that he looked at this comment from the CDC whistleblower, and he didn't go off the deep end about it. He said, all that we know is that there are some questions, that this doesn't answer any of the questions, and that's a really important thing for all of us to be aware of. So I encourage you, he is a voice of reason in all of this, I encourage you to watch that interview tomorrow. That's during Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. You can see a brief clip of it right now on our YouTube page and our Facebook page. And don't forget that tomorrow, first, before Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, we will have Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet will be here, and she will be answering your questions. Now is a good time to start sending in questions for her. We love to get them in the days before the show. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, as I promised you, Bob Epner is going to be here with us, and he's going to be talking about something that's happening in Manhattan that I hope spreads all over this country and all over the world. This is really inspirational, what he's doing. It is amazing to me, the power of one person who makes up their mind that they're going to make a difference, what they can do. So stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Autism Research Group. We study ways to improve the lives of kids with autism. One of those ways is teaching safety skills, such as what to do if they get lost. We hit the streets to find out if anybody knows the correct answer on how to teach a kid what to do if they get lost. You're teaching a child
what to do if they get lost.
Yeah, you're trying to make them independent so they have the skills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, give them a compass.
Codename's good idea. Centurion.
We always have this whistle.
Oh, I'd also tell the kid, don't get scared. You're gonna be all right, man. This is just the world. This is planet Earth. You're at home here. As long as you're on planet Earth, you're at home.
As long as you're on planet Earth, you're home. This guy's a genius. With that flawless logic, he just solved our homeless problem. And as for the unique sounding whistle, although very cool, it'll probably only work if you're in close proximity. And a compass.
I have her call me.
Yeah, she doesn't have a phone. Parents are like, you're too young, you don't need a phone.
Establish some sort of like meeting place.
What if they can't find a meeting place? Because sometimes the kids get nervous when they get lost.
Yeah.
So like a backup plan, plan B.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not really.
Let them go and find a new kid.
Yeah, I've got a different one. Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
There is stuff you can do. That's right, there is stuff you can do. In 2012, myself, along with my colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski, published a study in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis on teaching kids what to do when they get lost. The study demonstrated how 3 simple things, rules, role-playing, and praise, were effective in establishing these help-seeking behaviors. The benefit of this method is it doesn't require the child to have a cell phone or to have to locate a meeting place, which might be difficult if they're in a place like Disneyland. So once again, our method included rules, role-playing, and praise. Let's head back outside and learn about some of these rules.
They should yell out loud. Can't find my mom, help me.
Maybe yell out and scream for help.
All right, scream really loud.
Correct.
And if that doesn't work, then...
I don't know.
Well, they could seek help from someone.
Find an adult.
Yeah, go to a vendor, and say I'm lost.
Find an adult, like a police officer or a fireman or an employee in the store, and tell them, and maybe they can help you contact your parent. It really is that simple. You don't need to get your kid a cell phone. You don't need to establish a meeting place that they might not be able to find when they're lost and panicking. And you definitely don't need to give them a compass. All your kid has to do is 3 things. First, yell mom or dad real loud. 2, if that doesn't work, find an employee. And then 3rd, tell the employee they're lost. If they can't locate an employee, then tell them to find a mother with children, because that's probably the safest person to approach. I'm not saying that most men are predators, but most predators are men. That is a fact, I read it in a fortune cookie. All right, so you've gone over the rules with your kid, and you've quizzed them, and they're able to tell you the correct responses so they understand the rules. But is that enough? How do you know they're going to perform correctly in a real-world setting? You need to get out there and find out if they can actually do it.
So you'd go over the rules and tell them, like, do this, do that, but how would you know if they actually knew what to do? If you wanted to shoot a basketball, and I just told you, oh, when you shoot a basketball, do this, this, and this.
But never practice.
You never practice, yeah, so it don't matter how many times we go over the rules or how well you can repeat them back to me. It's not going to change until you get on the court and practice.
Maybe do like a, a little skit with them.
Like a role play?
Role play, yeah.
Your child, you're lost in the toy aisle.
Okay.
What do you do? I'm an attendant, walking around.
I'm lost, I don't know where my mom is.
And then once you practice, you just like praise them, give them feedback, like, good job, you did it.
Reinforcing it.
Yes, this woman wins the prize for best comment. She pointed out the most important part of learning, reinforcement. Now, in our study, we used praise, but for your kid, you might have to use something else. You might have to buy them a treat, a toy, take them to their favorite restaurant where they can eat unhealthy food and run around and climb through plastic tunnels that have the unmistakable scent of urine, and then play games spending $20 to get a plastic little spider ring that they will eventually lose in a ball pit. The point is, you need to reward your child for correctly demonstrating what you've been teaching them.
Okay, I'm gonna call her. Hello, your child, Ryan Oceans is missing. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So you tested it out
I'll
in the
try.
store to make sure I knew it. I had the rules,
Yes.
we role played it, and you made sure I knew it, and then like you said, good job, and all that. Now we're good to go.
We're good to go.
All right.
Done?
High five right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Give your child the rules, get out there and practice, and reward your child for responding correctly. For more information, please visit us online at autismresearchgroup.org. I'm Ryan Bergstrom. Thanks for watching. Yes, ding, no. Yes, this woman wins the first, yes, this woman, yes, this woman wins the best, yes, this woman wins the first place, yes, this woman wins, why can't I say woman? Yes, this woman wins, what's the line? Yes!
Welcome back to Autism Live. You know that I love to celebrate when we have individuals who are really making a difference. And right now we have somebody in the studio who is making a huge difference. Bob Eppner, so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And you are very involved with the David Arthur Foundation in New York. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
The David Arthur Foundation is a nonprofit that my wife and I started. It's named after my son, David Arthur Eppner, who's on the spectrum. And it's dedicated to researching and designing and ultimately scaling integrated communities for adults with autism.
Love that. And you are so involved in this that there is a project that's happening in Manhattan right now. There's a new card office that's going to be opening, and as a division of that, and help me to understand that there's a part of it that you're going to be very involved with for vocational training. Talk to us a little bit about what's going to happen.
Okay, well, just a little bit of background. My son has been using card services for 10 years, both in Hong Kong and in New York. So we know card. We started this foundation, and we were looking for office space. And the church that my wife attends just happened to have this amazing office space available, and the priest told my wife about it. And it's their old basketball gymnasium on their second floor. It has beautiful light, it has this hardwood basketball floor. And it was huge, and it was much bigger than what I needed for just this startup foundation. But my wife and I thought, well, let's just get the space, and it's so great, we'll try to attract other people who are doing things in the autism world, and it'll become kind of an incubator space. And I reached out to CARD, and they were very excited about getting this space for not only to have a center, but to help them really move ahead with adult services.
Yes.
And particularly helping adults with vocational training and all the life skills training that surrounds being able to do that. And so this was aligned with our foundation and was with organization that we knew so well. So this was a wonderful partnership.
It makes me kind of well up because it's just a beautiful thing that you began this journey, I would imagine, specifically just to help your son, and that branched out into something that was bigger, and now it's getting even bigger, taking on vocational training for our young adults and our adults. And I can't think of anything more important in this moment in time, because we have so many people that are transitioning to that time period, and for so many of them, and for the parents, they describe it as a cliff, that they're going to go off into this cliff and there's no resources. So I'm thrilled and excited and inspired by what you're doing. But tell us a little bit about when are you opening, and how people can find more information, and what kinds of things you're going to be doing as you open, because I imagine there's a little bit of a ramp up to all the things that you want to do.
Well, we're moving fast, and we're having a big open house event September 21st, so Sunday, September 21st, in the afternoon at 1. And we're inviting, everyone who is part of the autism community in New York to see this, to get excited with us, and to help support us.
Absolutely. And so that's happening on the 21st of September. That's just a couple of weeks away. And I would imagine that they need to RSVP if they want to go to that.
That's right. So they can connect with me. So Bob Epner, and you can reach me at. I can give you my phone number.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I want to give away your phone number, but I'll make sure that you guys all get an email where you can RSVP to.
Yeah, we have a flyer, and you could put that out.
And I believe we have the flyer. Maybe while we're talking, Kelby can see if there is a thing that we can put up on the screen of where they can get a hold of. So RSVP, because it's really important that you RSVP. You always need to know how many people are going to be there so they can plan accordingly. But wonderful that you're going to do that on the 21st. And then what day are you actually planning on opening doors? Will it be the 21st?
I believe it's going to start right then. I think everything is working towards that. So they'll be providing center-based services in September.
Okay. And so if somebody is out there and watching and they've got a 14, 15, 16, 18-year-old and they're in Manhattan and they're really interested in these services, best thing that you can do is make sure that you go to this open house to be a part of that. But will it be things that happen after school? What's the schedule like? Have you guys made any determinations about how many different individuals you're going to be working with?
I would just add to it that we're looking for adults, so it's not just teenagers.
Okay.
It's, adults too.
Good point.
And so either family members can identify that this is something for a son or daughter, or if you're just an adult with autism and you want to get help with finding a job and getting skills, that this is an opportunity.
Super duper important. And one of the things that I want to point out is that until you decided to do this, it didn't exist. And we had somebody who wrote in a little bit earlier talking about in Mississippi the feeling that there aren't services there. And sometimes I love the phrase, when you see a need, fill it. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I hope that other parents will recognize that and start to fill the need where they are, so that this kind of grows and has legs. So excited, and I can't wait to hear. I hope that you'll check back with us and let us know how it's going, and maybe we can Skype with you from Manhattan to know, how this is working, because I look at this as kind of a pilot program that so many people can hopefully decide to do as well.
Yeah. Well, CARD has already had a great presence in the area with home-based services, so they're known. And I just think it's going to open a floodgate that once we have sort of a beachhead with this center and a presence in the community itself, that it can really build very quickly, and I think it's very exciting because the numbers are so big.
Yeah.
You need to, I mean, that's our feeling with this foundation, that I have a background in sort of scaling models, and, you know, it's great that people, you know, create maybe something that works in their community, but to think bigger on how can we take this like a McDonald's and move it to 100 cities, and that's what we would like to do.
I hope you do. I hope you do. I think it's in good hands. I'm impressed. I was so excited when I heard that you were going to be in town. Couldn't wait to get you on the show because I think this is amazing. I was saying to Mr. Eppner while we were in a break, I appreciate, because I have an 11-year-old and I'm constantly looking for people's footsteps to follow in. You're a trailblazer. I salute you. This is a wonderful thing you're doing.
Very kind. I'm very happy you reached out to me and let me be on this show.
Well, we thank you. And Kelby, do we have an address yet for them to email, or we're going to get that after the break? We're going to get that after the break, but we're going to get it to you guys. Make sure that you have an ability to RSVP. What is the address of the new facility?
It's near 5th Avenue and 109th Street, right off Central Park.
Great neighborhood to be in, very centrally located. So for those of you who are in the Manhattan area, this is life-changing, life-changing.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here. We are going to take a break, and we're going to come back with your answers to the question of the day. So stick with us. Another parent wants to know, how do I find out that one thing that my kid is really good at?
Now, when they get older, they're going to kind of divide into two groups. You're going to have the kids that become verbal, and then you're going to have the kids that are nonverbal, got many more problems. Maybe they still have epilepsy or some other problem. And they kind of need different services. And the ones that get verbal, what we need to be doing with them is develop the area of strength. And that area of strength often will show up around 3rd or 4th grade, sometimes earlier. But my ability in art showed up when I was in 3rd and 4th grade, and it was always encouraged. And I was encouraged to do lots of different kinds of art. Otherwise, it would have just been endless horse heads. You know, Mother would say to me, "Why don't you draw a picture of a beach, or something else?" You want to broaden it out. If the kid's fixated on trains, let's teach reading with trains, math with trains. Tap into that fixation, but develop the area of strength. Some kids it's going to be art. Other kids it's going to be mathematics. So you got a 3rd grader who's smart in math, and he wants a 6th grade math book. Give him the 6th grade math book. Don't bore him with the baby stuff. But that kid's going to have trouble with reading, because the common thing is the uneven skills. And then you have the kids that are the history buffs, and these kids are often really good at writing skills. You tend to have uneven skills, but tap into their fixations and use those to motivate, but broaden. If he likes trains, just watching them, well, we're going to take that interest in trains to do some math with it, or maybe read about the history of the railroad. You know, tap into that motivation. One of the things I really want to talk about is we got to stretch these kids. I'm not talking about physically stretching them, mentally stretching them to do new things. I'm seeing too many kids that haven't learned how to shop, how to order food at McDonald's. So you start out, let's say it's ordering food at McDonald's or at Burger King. So you take them up there and they watch you order it. And then eventually you go in when the store's not busy, and they have to go up and order it while you're sitting at the table watching, and then you coach them. And then eventually they can go in the restaurant themselves. I can remember I was scared to go to the lumber yard alone and buy lumber. And Mother made me go. And she knew I could do it. I had bought lumber with her many times. But there's a tendency to want to have somebody else there when they do it, and they've got to learn how to do things alone. And you gradually have got to kind of push it. You've got to stretch them. And I'm seeing too many kids not learning basic skills. Saw a 19-year-old honors student that actually knows how to drive that had never shopped in the grocery store all by herself. That is just ridiculous. You know, you've got to stretch them. You push too hard, there can be panic. And the other thing is no surprises. No surprises. I knew all about the ranch long before I went there. I'd talked to Ann. But if you don't stretch these kids, they don't grow.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that you guys get the address of where you can RSVP to the Manhattan event. You see it on the screen there, s.price@centerforautism.com. That's where you're going to RSVP to be able to go to that wonderful event in Manhattan that's happening on the 21st. And if you have questions, you can write, that's to Stacy Price at the centerforautism.com. Okay. And I hope that you'll go. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Before we go any further, wanted to go back and talk a little bit about our question of the day. Our question today was, what are you most worried about when your child reaches adulthood? You guys have been writing in, and, I got to say that I'm right here with you this as a parent. There are so many things that you guys are saying that I think we can all relate to. I had said this earlier, but somebody else added, how will he be taken care of after my death? This is one of the concerns that we all have as autism parents, right? Another one, him not being happy. How about people taking advantage of him, which plays right into one of the things that we're talking today about conservatorship that we've seen with the event that we talked about earlier today, that sometimes individuals in the world are unkind and take advantage of our kids. And we all want to be able to protect them so that that can be minimized or gotten rid of. We've seen so many different stories in the last year of this being true, of people taking advantage of individuals who are on the autism spectrum. In fact, there's a hashtag now that is Justice for Autism, talking about how these are no longer just crimes, but there are people in our community, and I have to say I agree with them, calling for action, calling these hate crimes. This is not acceptable for so many people to be treated in the way that they have been, especially in the last year. But certainly something we need to be working on to make sure that people can't take advantage of our individuals on the autism spectrum. Somebody who said, I agree with all the above. I worry now about her first year in middle school. Someone else says school. Someone else who says, what is out there for their future and for them to be more protected and thought about in this world that we live in, with lots of X's after that. Someone else who says living on her own, having friends. These are the important things, right? Another writer who wrote in and said, I'm worried about him getting there to begin with. It's his upcoming teen years that frighten me the most. I am so right there with you. I have an 11-year-old. This is a scary time, but there are services, and there are amazing people like Bob Epner that are doing things to be able to help his child and to be able to help all of our children. There are things that we can do. Someone else who says living on his own and caring for himself. Somebody who wrote in who identified themselves as being on the spectrum, and what they're worried about is living on their own and driving. So appreciate you writing that. Someone else who says living an independent life. Someone else says being able to do for himself and always having someone who loves him to be there for him. And then the list goes on. They can go to group homes or have a roommate. We're absolutely loving that you guys are writing these things in. Another person who says, my son is 16. I worry about this just about every day. And then another one who says how they will live if I'm not here, what resources are out there for them so that they can be independent. We get overwhelmed sometimes when we think about this stuff, but it's kind of ever present in the back of our heads. It's, I always say I have my son, that we call him Gem. I say I always have Gem 101 running in the back of my head. Doesn't matter if I'm talking to you or if I'm driving or if I'm cooking dinner or if I'm balancing my checkbook, I have Gem 101 running in the back of my head. And these are the fears that we all have about the future. We can't possibly overcome them all in one day, but there are steps that we can take to ensure that things things move at a rate and that our kids are properly supported. That is not one size fits all. There are going to be different things for different people based on their abilities, based on their preferences that are going to be able to work for them. So we are going to be talking about this today. Today in particular, we're talking about conservatorship. In just a few minutes, we're going to bring in our wonderful guest. Yolanda Erickson is going to be with us from betzedek.org. This is an amazing organization that I just recently found out about. But I have to say to you, I am so thrilled that she's here today to introduce us not only to what Betzedek is, but also to be talking to us about conservatorship, who it might be right for, the things that we want to consider, when we want to do that, when we don't want to do that, when we want to do that partially, how that all works. I know I have questions. I'm sure you guys do as well. Be writing those in. But throughout the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about several different things. One about talking, we've got to talk about what we do to ensure that there is a plan for when we are no longer here. And I know, I don't want to talk about that either. I break out into hives just thinking about it. But you know what I always say to you? We balance this conversation out. If we're going to talk about some things that are hard, we're going to talk about some things that are really fun. So again, in just a couple of minutes, we're going to go to the A word, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have our special guest, Yolanda Erickson's going to be here with us. She's going to tell us about conservatorship. It's going to make our chests a little bit tight, right? But our treat afterwards for our good behavior, we have a house full of stand-up comedians here that are going to make it a little bit, we're going to get that reward that we need for talking about the tough stuff. So we have we have 4 stand-up comedians and the amazing autism dad who is bringing them all together to raise some money for autism. They will be in that last half hour of the show. So all of that, it's going to be a good time. We're going to get through the tough discussions, get some good information, and then reward ourselves. Sounds good, right? But first, we're going to go to the A word. This is an ongoing documentary that's being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He's getting his early intensive behavioral intervention, and he's learning a lot day by day, growing. Sometimes it's really fun and exciting, and sometimes it's not easy. But as we drop in on this family, we get to see not only what it's like for him and what the therapy looks like in his home, but also what it's like for his ever-growing family, because he's about to be a big brother. So take a look. This is the A word.
Do you think Jack knows what's happening today?
Not a clue. We asked him where the baby was, and sometimes he points here, and sometimes he just points here and says belly button. So he's either getting a baby sister or a belly button. He's not sure.
Good. What about this one? It's a rooster. Yeah. Another one. Sure. Which one do you want? Both. Okay. Here you go.
Jessica gave Jack Riley a partial vocal prompt to get him to ask instead of demand the puzzle from her. Last week, she had to prompt him by saying,
Say, can I? Sure.
but now she only makes the sound to get him to ask. Eventually, he will need no prompting.
Case. Case? Yes, I want case. Case. Yes, you can. There you go. Should we dance and sing? Should we say head, shoulders, knees, and toes? And yeah? Okay, let's sing the song first, though. Sing song first. Ready? Head. Head. Sing first, and then Dumbo. Sing first.
Now that Jack Riley has language, he negotiates with Jessica instead of tantruming or crying like he would have.
Eyes and ears and nose and good. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Whoa! You almost ate there. Yeah, you finished the song. Okay, come here. Whee! Whoa! It's like you're Superman, huh? It's like you're Superman. Come here. Jack Riley, come here. Come here. Thank you. Sit down. No. Come No. Jack Riley. No, look at my eyes. No, sit down chair. No, sit down chair. No, sit down chair. No, Jack Riley. You need to sit down chair. Thank you. Oh. Thanks. Good boy. High fives for good sitting. Thank you.
What happened?
That I was actually reading notes from other therapists that are on his team that he's been non-compliant when it comes to sitting in the chair. But right now it just seemed like he didn't want to do it because you asked him to do it, or I asked him to do it. And then I was prompting him to sit in the chair. But then once I just backed off, he sat on his own, like it's on his own terms, basically. But I didn't want him to get away with, if I asked him to do something, he has to do it. And that applies to when I ask him to do other things too, so that he doesn't learn that if I just ask him something and don't follow through, then I don't have to listen to Jessica. I'll just listen to her whenever I feel like it.
Right.
And he's been really exercising just because he can vocalize what he wants now. He wants it every time he asks for something, and then if you don't give it to him, then that's what happens. I do want him to learn that just because he asks nicely doesn't mean he'll get everything every time.
Are you excited? You excited?
He's sleeping.
Are you sleeping?
So what time are you gonna leave, Mike?
We have OT at 11.
Oh, you still have OT today?
Yeah.
Did I get close?
Yeah, well, that's the life of that's our life now.
Let's go back out.
I'm gonna go, I gotta go take a shower because we're gonna have a baby. See you later.
Later.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest, I've been saying her name wrong all morning. It's Yolandi. Yolandi, that's a beautiful name, Erickson. She is here joining us from Betzedek. It's betzedek.org, and it's spelled a little bit interestingly, so it's up on your screen there, but for those of you who are listening, betzedek.org. And this, I write it down on a magnet and put it on your refrigerator because this is an amazing thing, especially for those of us who live in Southern California in the Los Angeles area. So, Yolandi, let's start by talking about what Betzedek is and how it was founded.
Betzedek is a public interest law firm. It was founded by a group of Jewish lawyers to help low-income, elderly Jewish adults with their legal issues. So we've always prided ourselves in providing free services, and basically we serve everybody of any denomination, any religious affiliation. We are not limited to serving Jewish people. The name Betzedek means House of Justice in Hebrew, and it is our hope to bring a little justice to the underserved, to those that are low-income or disabled or elderly that have probably the most difficult time accessing legal services and getting justice.
Well, I think it's amazing what you guys are doing, and I was saying to her during the break that for me, when I am not Jewish, but when my son was diagnosed with autism, one of the first things that happened was the YMCA in our town, when they found out that my son had autism, we were disinvited. And he was not allowed to come to the center, and it was cited specifically, and it was a very unhappy thing for me, and my feelings were very, very hurt. I'll be honest, I don't think I'm quite over it yet, and it was over 10 years ago, so what does that tell you? But one of the other things that happened to us very quickly, we were in a situation where we were having to pay for a service and then be reimbursed for it, and it was several $1,000s a month, and we were having a terrible time, and sometimes keeping up with that, and sometimes there was an overlap. And somebody said, oh, well, you should go to the Jewish Free Loan Association. And I said, oh, we're not Jewish. And they said, doesn't matter. And the Jewish Free Loan Association gave us an interest-free loan and made it possible for us to be able to have that money each month for a 2-year period so that we could get through that and my son could get his treatment. I said, what a difference in these two experiences. Now, recently, we talked earlier this morning about the Romario Snow case, and and how detrimental it was in his case that he did not have a conservatorship. And his mom is a great, great woman, but she didn't know about conservatorship. So many of our viewers have not known about it, didn't know what to do. And she had some concerns about, how do I do this and how do I afford this? When you need legal help, how do you afford it? And we reached out to some autism advocates in the community and said, where do we send her? And they said, you send her to Bet Zedek. And I said, what is this wonderful place that you speak of? And the more I have found out in the meantime, the more I am in awe of what you guys do. This is amazing. So obviously you already talked about it was founded for people who were maybe elderly or low income, but now you've branched into some other areas with Bet Zedek. So tell us all the different services that somebody living here might use Bet Zedek for.
Absolutely. We have 5 areas of service, including consumer debt issues, workers' rights, or so-called employment issues. We have Holocaust Reparations Department that helps elderly Holocaust survivors get the reparations that they're entitled to. And again, that also includes, while it's mainly people of the Jewish faith, it also applies to all the others that were persecuted during the Holocaust. So we again serve everyone. We also have a housing rights project. We have a public benefits project helping people with Social Security and SSI and other public benefits. And then we have the elder law unit, which I'm part of, which works in the area of elder law and long-term planning, both for elderly people and for the disabled. We also have, of course, a large conservatorship project within that. But we also have a caregiver coalition, and we provide a lot of information for caregivers, because we realize oftentimes that while the person that has lost capacity has all of these needs attended to or not attended to, depending on the situation, but the caregiver is usually the one that is going without, giving up their lives to take care of people. So we try to sort of advocate across the board for that population. And I know you mentioned earlier about long-term planning, care planning, and we're all about that for everyone, for all ages. And I think when my son went off to college, the first thing I did was have him sign a power of attorney for health care for me, because I knew he was 18. And basically, if something happened to him, I didn't have any rights to make decisions if he was incapacitated for any length of time.
And I think the vast majority of us just don't think of these things because there's so many other things going on.
That's right.
And I think that's in a typical family, but when you have a special need that's going on, all the things you have to think of, it's just that much more. So what a wonderful organization. And how much do you guys charge?
We don't charge anything, and we
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
All our services are free.
Okay, is it just me, or don't we all just want to hug her now? Don't we just want to, how often do you get to hear that, especially when it's involved with legal things? That's amazing.
That's true.
What a gift. And so we have to say, though, that this is in the Los Angeles area.
That's right.
But is there hope that maybe you'll branch out and become a national thing?
We really advocate on issues nationally and internationally. We're a big part of the international guardianship community, which is what the rest of the world and most of the rest of the country calls conservatorships. They call them guardianships. So in California, a guardianship is for a child under 18, and a conservatorship is for an adult over the age of 18. But in the rest of the world, it's called a guardianship. So we try to participate nationally and internationally to try to keep track of what's going on, trends, and really also to present our programs. We travel a lot and try to get out the kind of work that we're doing and let other people know about what's going on. And especially in the area where I focus, that is services for the intellectually disabled population. We're really trying to get the word out about how to help your loved one live their best lives.
Okay, and that's what I want to talk about next. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk to Yolandi Erickson about what we need to know about conservatorship, how that happens, and if maybe a checklist of what you need to consider so that you know if you need a conservatorship, because not everyone does, but for the people who do, it could be the difference of life and death. So we're going to take a short break, and we're going to be back with more after these messages.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here right now with Yolandi Erickson, and she has come to us from betzetic.org. And I love to say it. It's a beautiful word, Betzetic, but I want to spell it for you so that you know how to find it. BETTZEDEK.org. Wonderful, wonderful organization providing free legal help on a variety of different things that an autism family might need, whether it's help with conservatorship, which we're going to talk about now, or help with workers' rights, or you were saying with things with your housing situation. These kinds of things come up with financial help if you're having to do a bankruptcy, because heaven knows that comes up sometimes with an autism family. But today we're focusing with her on conservatorship. So it was our word for the day, but I'd rather hear it from you. What are we talking about when we talk about conservatorship?
Okay, well, we're talking about a court order that allows you to make the conservator to make decisions for me and about me if I don't have capacity to make some decisions or all decisions. So, and you can have a conservatorship over the person, which allows you to make decisions about the care, custody, and control of my person, or a conservatorship over the estate, which allows you to make decisions about financial issues and manage my assets. Okay. Now, with limited conservatorships, which are the type of conservatorships available for people with intellectual disorders, it is very unusual to need a conservatorship over the estate, because most of the clients that we see receive SSI benefits or some form of government benefits, and the parents or the caregivers can apply to become representative payees, and most of those people that are already receiving some form of government benefits will be very familiar with that, especially if their child is under 18. They will know that they need to be listed on the benefit. So it would say Jane Smith as representative payee for John Smith. And that allows people to make most financial decisions for someone that's only source of income once they turn 18 is government benefits. Okay. So there rarely is a need for a conservatorship of the estate. Okay. So mostly we're talking about conservatorships of the person. And with a limited conservatorship, there's the opportunity to have 1 or 7 powers, limited powers. And one is the power to make medical decisions, and that is to both accept and decline medical treatment, which is really important for people with intellectual disorders. Oftentimes, all the medical treatments available may not be appropriate for your loved one. So it's very important to have the ability to say, no, thank you, I'm going to decline this medical treatment, and not feel like I'm doing the wrong thing for my loved one. Right. There's the right to access confidential records. So with our HIPAA privacy laws and all of our laws relating to once you're 18, all of your records are private, your private papers. This gives the conservator the right to send records or receive records or to have records and confidential papers. The third is the right to make decisions about education. And now we know with persons with intellectual disabilities can go to high school until they're 22. So if they're 18, there's another 4 years of schooling. And somebody needs to have the ability to make those decisions about where they go to school, what kind of education they receive, if they then go on to college or job training or some other form of educational training. Then somebody needs to make the decisions about what that should look like if the conservatee, the person over whom you're making decisions, doesn't have that capacity. Then there's the right to, which is unique to limited conservatorships of the person. Again, we talked about how there's rarely an estate in a limited conservatorship. There's the right to contract. So that allows the conservator to enter into contracts for the conservatee. It also allows you, if you have that power, if somebody has been, duped into, we have a lot of people, we had one client who had bought 2 cars. He didn't have a driver's license, but somebody took him down and signed him up. Because you have a very attractive population to take advantage of. You have somebody with a social security number, generally a monthly income, and no debt of any kind, usually. So they're really ripe for being taken advantage of.
And when you have that inability to make a contract, then it's just like if they were 14. If your 14-year-old buys a car, you get to go back and say, sorry, you can't make a contract, give us back the money.
Which is a lot easier to say that, the contract was never valid than to say, well, you took advantage, so it's just, it's much easier.
Okay.
There is the right to make medical decisions. I think I covered that.
Yes.
Contract, education, residence, to decide, determine where somebody's going to live. Now, we know that a lot of proposed conservatees have been living at home with their families, but we also know that this landscape is changing and that young adults want to live independently as possible. And there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon, mostly created by advocates like you who see a need and see, where is my child going to live? What kind of community is best for them? And so there's this exciting ability, probably not enough yet, not enough housing choices and options, but that would allow you as the parent to, to sign a lease for somebody, to help them move in independently, to choose where they're going to live. Finally, the 2 most controversial powers are the right to control somebody's right to marriage, which is very controversial, and I think most of the families, I would say 99% of the families that I have spoken to, would like nothing better than for their loved one to marry and to have an independent life. So that's a very debated power, whether that sort of overreaches. Again, we've had issues with scams or people, being, again, it becomes very sensitive for families. But I think mostly, again, it's a right because marriage is considered a contract, so they want to be sure that somebody has the capacity to fully understand. Although most families, as I said, would like nothing better. The final power is the right to limit someone's social and sexual interactions, which is again a very, very hotly contested and debated power, and also, probably the most difficult, if you have that power, to really enforce. You can't really follow your child all the time. You're trying to promote as much independence as possible. But if there has been issues of abuse, we know that with this community, the incidence of sexual abuse is staggering for both men and women. So, while it's terrible to take away somebody's social and sexual rights. I mean, it's a fundamental right, and but there are instances where it is appropriate. Somebody that has been taken advantage of is very susceptible or has behaviors that might lead them to be abused or mistreated.
So let's go back for just a second and clarify that this conservatorship is not something that parents do to control their children, because I have an 11-year-old and I know that I'm the helicopter parent and I like to control. This is not about having control over them. This is we're only doing conservatorships, and you have to, there are some checks and balances to it, that you can only do that when the person has demonstrated to some extent that they do not have the ability to take care of themselves and make choices that keep them safe. Am I correct?
That's right. I mean, if they lack capacity in certain areas, and so again, you can have all 7 powers as the conservator, or you can have one of the 7, or you can craft something to where you share powers. For example, we have a lot of families that share powers about education and residence, and or may just have
with
medical
the
powers.
They're sharing the powers with the individual.
Yes,
I see.
and again, it depends on capacity.
Okay.
But I do believe that parents and caregivers really know their child better than anyone. So there are lots of alternatives to conservatorship. Again, it depends on capacity. You can do a durable power of attorney for health care, just like you and I can complete one of those. You can have a durable power of attorney for finances. You can have something called an education release. You can have the representative payee form that allows you to deposit their benefits and to help them, pay their bills and spend their money. So there are alternatives, and again, we only want to take away those powers which somebody is not independently able to enact. And the goal, while a lot of people say, well, that just runs contrary to what a conservatorship is, the goal of a limited conservatorship is to really foster independence and only limit or take away those powers which somebody can't really enact. And from a parental point of view, I think there is that desire to help your child grow into a really high-functioning adult and to live their best lives. And, this was never an issue in the past. And one of the reasons people don't really know about conservatorships is because this population never lived that long. So families weren't worrying about long-term care planning for their disabled child. But with, integration into the community, access to health care, and access to education, and we're seeing people with life expectancies that are just going through the roof every year, which is
lovely.
It's wonderful.
But we have to plan for it.
Exactly.
Now, somebody had written in a question on conservatorship, how do we set up a line of reliable successors for when the parents pass on? And they said, thank you for providing this information. Tough to think about, but so crucial. And they said, you guys are incredible. I think that's a great idea. If you've gone to the trouble as a parent and you've set it up and you've got the conservatorship, what happens when that conservator dies?
Well, with a limited conservatorship, when the conservator dies, the conservatorship ends, and you need to reapply. It's easy to do. It's fairly simple, but you can have co-conservators. You can have more than one conservator. I think what I find most interesting for families to know is when I deal with people over 18, and a lot of my clients are in their 40s and 50s, and their families really didn't have any kind of planning. And they may have siblings who are living their own independent lives with families, and I hear mom and dad saying, oh, well, Susan's going to take Bob. She's just going to take Bob. And I think Susan probably has no idea what taking Bob means, or whether Bob wants to be taken by anybody. And whether Bob would like to have his, to live independently or to live in a group setting with his peers. And so I oftentimes find that there isn't a lot of open communication in families. There's a sort of, mom generally has been sort of hiding just what is involved in the day-to-day taking care of Bob. And so I think what's so important with families is to have that dialogue, to have, to do some planning and some talking, but to include everybody and to find out if that's realistic. If your daughter living in Iowa is going to come out and get Bob and move Bob to Iowa, and is that what's best for Bob, to take him out of his community? Or if they're living down the block, do they really know what the day-to-day care looks like.
Can you do a limited conservatorship and have the conservator be in one state and the other person be in another state?
Yes, you can. I mean, it's probably not the ideal situation. The courts would like the persons involved to be here and to be part of the daily care, because as a conservator, your responsibility, your legal responsibility is to provide care for that person. So it is a little more difficult if somebody's in another state, but it's not impossible, and it does happen.
So for the parents who are watching and who say, okay, 18 is looming, and I may need this conservatorship because I'm not seeing the decision-making process being in place. And we do need to note that this is not going to be the entire autism population. You mentioned an intellectual disability.
Right.
And not everyone who has autism has an intellectual disability. But if a parent is seeing that and they see, okay, I'm going to need this, and they're in the LA area, how do they get in touch with you, and what do they do?
Well, they can. We have 2 programs at Bethzedik for conservatorships. They can call our main number, which will be on the website.
Okay, which is betzedek.org again, and Kelby will put that up for you. But betzedek.org.
That's correct. And then we also have conservatorship clinics, which are essentially for self-advocates, which I find this population of caregivers and parents are the greatest advocates in the world.
We love to get information and know how to fill out the paperwork.
So it's very simple. We have one located at the Superior Court downtown at 111 North Hill Street in the Self-Help Center, and this is all on our website. We have one in Pasadena. We have one in Long Beach that's just open, and we have one in Antelope Valley, Lancaster. Okay. So these are at the courthouses, and they're conservatorship clinics, and again, all that information is on our website, and families can go there. You don't need to bring your loved one. You can just go and get the information. They'll give you paperwork to fill out. You bring it back, and all the conservatorship paperwork does require a capacity declaration completed by a doctor, psychologist, or religious healer. And so the court wants to hear from a professional that somebody does not have capacity to make those decisions.
They're not just going to take our word for it.
They're not going to just take our word for it.
We like that. Checks and balances.
Right. And then the difficult cases, where there may be competing petitions, or there are all sorts of very difficult cases, we will take at Bethzedik for direct representation. So in those cases, you will have a lawyer representing you. But again, the clinic is a wonderful process, and I guarantee everybody, whether English is your first language or not, is able to navigate that. And you really have support all the way. The only thing where you're on your own is to go to the actual hearing in the courtroom, but we've made sure that all the paperwork is in order, so it's a very, it's just a 5-minute hearing. And you're in and out, and you're done. And so that's really the best service that we offer, because we can serve the most people.
And it's my favorite 4-letter word that starts with an F, free. Right?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, I thank you so much. We could talk about this endlessly, and we're going to have you back on to talk about other things. But we're out of time for now. But I thank you so much. Thank everybody at Bethzedik. We think this is amazing. We hope that many of you will use this wonderful, wonderful resource, and we hope that you grow and franchise.
Thank you so much.
We are going to take a break right now, and then when we come back, we promised you the reward and the treat. We've got a bunch of stand-up comedians. In our first segment, we are going to have Steve Trevino, Mike Malone, and Jesus Trejo is going to be here. They are all comics that are performing this Friday night for Fullerton Cares. It's a benefit for autism. So we're going to have a house full of stand-up comedians, and then in the segment after that, Larry Hauser, who's the dad behind Fullerton Cares, and a very special stand-up comedian, Keith Reza, I hope I'm saying these names right, guys, is going to be here with us. It's going to be fabulous, so don't go away.
My name is Rachel. My son is Kyle. He has autism.
I am Kyle. I am 9 years old.
He's been with CARD since he was 2 years old, so that's about 7 years. We've been really fortunate that we've seen so much change in Kyle that you would really not even realize he has autism.
The front of the book has an artwork piece.
Is that me?
No, that's a self-portrait, that's why.
I thought so. Look, you're wearing the same kind of color shirt. He had been going along with pretty main milestones. He had walked on time, he had sat on time, he was looking at me at different things and laugh, and he had about 5 words, and then all of a sudden he lost the words. And I would call his name and he wouldn't look at me anymore. He all of a sudden went into his own world. I mean, I just noticed like he slipped away from us. I got into UCLA because somebody called in sick one day, and we were on her waiting list, but she said, oh, I had a cancellation, can you bring your son in today? I took my son in with my mom, and we had a 2.5-hour appointment where they observed his behavior, noticed they didn't have any words. He was climbing all over things and jumping off her furniture because he had no sense of fear. He couldn't actually feel very much. The doctor told me, ask for CARD, you can call them. I called them and got on their waiting list, and then I started researching what ABA was. ABA with CARD was the only scientific-based research that had shown that children could improve, or now they even say recover. And my son, I think, having all this therapy early, he's going to graduate from CARD. He's going to be able to be part of the community as a typical kid. How does it make you feel when you play the violin?
It makes me a little bit calmer.
Kyle, early on, he only liked baby food, and even at age 4, he was eating baby food, and he liked lots of flavors, but he didn't like anything with the texture. So he wanted everything pureed. So if you can imagine, as a mom, I'm up, cooking carrots and then pureeing them when he couldn't just have a carrot. It was really time consuming, and I could get the protein and everything into him, but he wasn't eating like a typical child. It was 1 year later, instead of eating blended bananas, he was now, peeling the banana and biting into the banana. Taking a hot dog on a gluten-free bun and biting into it, I mean, that is just amazing. So that was one of the main things I came home thinking, wow, this is great. It really was a relief for me because I was doing a lot of blending. I think I went through 3 blenders, and that's just not every mom that wants to have a regular meal and be able to have the same food with their son. So it really helped. Right now, he's on the road to recovery, we call it, and I really do think that Kyle, in a year or 2, will not even need assistance with therapists. He really is in a typical class, and he's at the highest level. He's in the advanced level. He's in a GATE class. I don't even think anyone knows in his class he has autism because he's just there.
This is a mobile. I got a very good grade on it. I got 4 because my teacher said that she learned a lot about Neil Armstrong. This is a drawing of Neil's first footprint on the moon.
Is his footprint still there?
Yeah, it is, and his boots.
And his boots?
He left his boots on the moon.
He did. Everyone thinks he's very kind, and he gives hugs to everyone, so the social interaction is there. He's very intelligent. He's highest in his class, and he makes friends, and he loves to read, and he's just a part of groups when he meets people.
My first trip to SeaWorld, I wrote it, but I wanted to make sure that you noticed that the sun is moving higher.
What does that signify?
That signifies that time is going. This is artwork in a frame. That took me a lot of work to do. I have some instruments over here. Something inspired me to make instruments. This was from last year for a fundraiser. This is the surfing pictures.
So here you're going on the surfboard, and did you stand up right away?
Yeah, I did.
You did. And show us how your stance on the surfboard. Ready? Go. And what's your favorite part about surfing?
The very first time I loved the Wipeout. And I hope that you enjoyed me, Mom, and all of my interests in learning a little bit about me. The end.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I promised you guys a treat after we talked about conservatorship and how hard that is. So half of your treat is here now for this segment. I have here with me in the studio 2 stand-up comedians. Not just one, we have 2 stand-up comedians. We have Steve Trevino and Jesus Trejo. They're here. And we didn't just invite stand-up comedians to have stand-up comedians, although we could have, but you guys are doing a really important event this Friday. Who's going to tell me what this event is?
Well, you know what? It's Fullerton Cares, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. And I'll tell you why. Because it's affected my family, and not only that, it's stand-up comedy is such a selfish, self-indulged thing. So it's I do stand-up comedy for me. A lot of times people say I do it for the audience. That's not true. We're comics. We do it for us. So to be able to give back like this and to do something great for the community and for autism, it just means the world to me. And that's why I brought Jesus along with the show as well, because when I met Jesus, he was working as a counselor for kids with autism.
Yeah, I was an ABA instructor for a year, and I really enjoyed working with the kids. And eventually, I left that to pursue my stand-up comedy career. But it's something that's very dear to me, and I had a great time working with the kids. And it just it's like it makes you aware of kids and what they need and what needs to be done to further, help these kids, get on the right path there. And
my cousin Lori, her son has autism, and I'm very close to her, and it was very frustrating speaking with her because she would tell me all the obstacles, not with her son, but with everybody else.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
And she's like, my kid can't go to daycare because they don't want him there, and there's not somebody that's certified enough to handle him, and she's like, my son is so capable, but they're not taking the time, and schools don't have the money or the funds or the know-how or the education to help these kids. So when I got the phone call about doing this, I was like, absolutely. And of course, you have to find out, what is Fullerton Cares? What does it mean? What are you doing? Where's your money going?
Right.
And when he explained to me all the things that he's doing in his community of Fullerton, I said, I'm on board, absolutely.
Yeah, Fullerton Cares is...
And now for something funny. Look at his hair.
Hey.
Just show him the comb over.
Oh, they could see it. Look at that.
It doesn't go up?
It's like Pangea. It's like at one point it was connected. Now it's like, look at that. It looks like a Bengals helmet. It looks like a Bengals helmet.
And you're a young guy.
I'm a young guy.
Like 27.
But my head is ahead of its time. It's really.
It's living in the future.
Living in the future.
He looks Jewish. Look.
So he's got the little ringlets back there. So you have to explain to us, because my husband, bless him, he might even be watching. For many years, he was doing the creative hairdo.
Creative hairdo.
Which is what you have to do when you're balding. You go into a barber shop. You have to get creative. I'm like, sir, can I get the optical illusion number 3? Yeah, just cut the size.
But, I didn't know. I met Jesus, and I didn't know.
You didn't go in there and patty fingers.
Well, I'm short. I'm 5'5". He's 6'8". I can see.
Yeah.
So
there's a height difference.
You never were in the wind with him.
Well, that's what happened. Is we were playing golf, and all of a sudden I see, and I go, okay, what's going on?
What is that?
Became a Smurf.
Well, and and we started. I told him as a stand-up, you have to talk about it. And it was rough for him to talk about it, and he started to. And that's funny about Keith. Keith has autism, and Keith's going to be on the show.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I told him. I said it's very important that you talk about it.
Yeah.
Not only for yourself, for to let people know, I'm not dumb.
Right.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
I know who I am and what I am, and then let them know it's okay to laugh.
So you're not only a comedian, you're a comedian coach as well.
Well, yeah, I
taking you in hand.
He's been my mentor. He's great. Like he's so great about breaking stuff down and what you should be talking about, because he has the experience that I don't have. Wow. He has a stage time, so he tells me what.
I just don't want him to have to go through the pains that I went through. I'd rather tell him, hey, here's a shortcut.
That's great.
Because a lot of comics go, well, I went through it. Well, he's got to go through it. And I'm the complete.
He's showing mercy.
I've been very fortunate. And
my wife is thrilled about Friday because we get to dress up.
Yeah.
You know, my wife's coming to the show,
And she's gonna be proud of you.
Well, this is how I dress. So when I do
What's wrong with it?
I know, but when I do a charity, she sets it out. I'm like her personal Build-A-Bear. You know what I mean? Like she dresses me like a little Build-A-Bear, and she gets to dress up, and we get to go to the red carpet, and she pulls out her Louis Vuitton. You know, I've never met Louis Vuitton, but I've never met him.
But you own stock in him, probably.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That's what I tell my wife. I go, who needs a savings account?
When
right?
you can invest in Louis Vuitton.
In Louis Vuitton.
Okay, so this is happening on Friday.
Yes.
It's a Fullerton Cares event, and what time is this all happening?
The show starts at, I think we're going to get there early, about like 6 for the red carpet. There's going to be a red carpet, and there's going to be...
This is a dress up.
It is a dress up, and there's going to be media there, which is great. And that to me is more important than, like today I took a picture in front of your banner out there. I had no idea about this, so I'm happy to be able to show.
We're world famous. How could you not know?
I saw all the thumbtacks. But it's great for me to. It's more about awareness.
Yes.
And we're gonna have the media out there about 6 or 7. The show starts about 8, and we plan on putting an amazing show together. And from what I understand, is it's almost sold out. We've sold over 400 tickets.
Okay.
And those tickets aren't cheap.
Right.
We're asking people, and it's funny because every show I always get people go, "Can I get in for free?" Not this one, buddy.
No.
Buy your tickets and help us support a wonderful cause.
Now.
And so so it's your nephew that is on the spectrum.
Yes.
So you are one of the best uncles I've ever met. That you've taken this so to heart, and that you're there.
Well,
supporting. That's
and
important.
it was funny. I called Jesus. There's a guy at the Comedy Store named Josh Merowitz is his last name, and comics. We're a community of misfits.
Yes.
And when we met Josh and he started coming around the Comedy Store, well, we started getting him on stage. So we're gonna have Josh come out and do a couple minutes on stage as well. And just to help bring awareness, and it'll be the biggest show he's ever done, and I'm really proud to be able to bring him along and put him on stage and let him live his dream, and it's just exciting for all of us.
This is a big event. People are going to get their money's worth.
Absolutely.
And they get an opportunity to dress up. So we'll be talking to Larry in just a couple of minutes, but where do they need to go if they want to get tickets? Anybody know the website?
The tickets are on FullertonCares.com.
Yeah, FullertonCares.com. Go on the Twitter account.
And usually when you come see me perform, you're supporting my wife's Louis Vuitton habit. But in this case, it's different. You'll be helping autism. So
and she won't be ticked about that.
You don't know my wife. No, I'm kidding. But no, she will not be ticked at all about it. She's super thrilled and excited to be a part of it as well. And like I said, comedy's such a selfish thing. So to be able to come out and do something like this on Friday, it's just
exciting. I can't wait.
I appreciate you guys. We all do. We think what you're doing is incredible. And so we hope you kill. We know you'll kill on Friday night.
And I'll say this for those of you that are listening and you're going, well, I don't live in Fullerton or I don't live in California. Well, this guy started his own deal, did it himself. So if you have a child with autism, or if autism means something to you, then get this together in your community and make this happen for your community. And you'll be surprised how many people will get behind you and help you.
Absolutely. Great point. But with that, we're going to say goodbye to these two, and then we're going to take a break, and we're going to bring into the studio Larry Hauser, the guy that we're talking about,
Larry's
who started
great.
all of this. Amazing dad who's been on the show before. And another comedian, Keith Reza, who we were just talking about, so he can tell us about what's happening with him. But we thank you guys so much. We think you guys are incredible.
Thank you for having us.
Break a leg on Friday.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back after these messages.
Nick was diagnosed with autism in 1994 at the age of 4. He received 5 years of therapy from CARD that eventually faded out. Nick recovered from autism in 2001.
The song I'm about to perform is by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. CARD helped many patients, myself, to recover to this level now.
Cheryl and Mike's son, Jack Riley, was diagnosed with autism in 2010 at age 2. He's been receiving therapy from CARD for a year and a half. Today, Cheryl, Mike, and Nick meet for the first time.
I'm curious as to what you remember.
I certainly remember pretty long sessions
and I'd be frustrated if I would make mistakes. I mean, I remember one time I had to count a row of 6 blocks, kept messing up. That was really difficult.
No.
I need it. I need it.
At what point do you recall hearing the word autism?
I was able to figure out what I was going through without anybody having to tell me.
Our concern is if it's a big secret to hide. I don't know what we can say.
No one ever told you, you just discerned
But the
it?
reason I'm comfortable talking about this is because I felt it. In therapy, I certainly began questioning why people reacted as they did based on what I said and did. Particularly because of difficulties I was facing in school. It got to a point where I wanted to understand why it was. So I entered while still going through therapy and still showing significant signs of the mental condition. Even after I'd improved to a significant extent, there were those who still gave me a hard time for it.
Did it hurt your feelings when you were in school, the way that kids...
Oh, absolutely, because it was bullying, it was harassment.
That scares us.
They called me names. I was basically, when it came to sports and PE, I was usually the last kid chosen.
Did teachers intervene?
Fortunately, not really. I mean, it was just so hard for me to talk about it because of how ashamed I felt. Certainly the first few years of elementary school, I don't think I really had the most supportive teachers. I mean, I remember my mom told me how my first grade teacher once said that she thought I had no chance of getting anywhere. And going away to college and out of state and being the only person from my old school district has made a difference. It's just really improved my social life tremendously because I got to be me, because with nobody knowing about my past, I wasn't faced with these misconceptions and prejudgments.
Do you tell people, new people that you meet?
No, that's not the first thing I will ever
No, I would
tell
hope it's not the
and
first
you
thing.
know what? In most cases, I never do, because while it's a part of my past, it doesn't define who I am. I mean, just thinking back to the very beginning, pretty much each episode, autism, what, not who.
I want to tell you right now, though, I'm so impressed with you.
Likewise.
I want you to know that.
Likewise. I mean, your son really inspires me just as much, because I'll tell you, anytime
I adore him, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't challenging.
I mean,
it's cost me the stuff that like career things, goals. I don't care about those anymore. I work at night. I'm tending bar. Not that I'm too good for that. I'm just saying that's what I do. I want him to have a chance.
Right.
And you inspire me now.
Thank you. The feeling goes both ways. The feeling's mutual.
Before you leave today, we would like you to meet Jack.
I would love to.
This is Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jack Riley.
All right, should we try this? I'm gonna try to take a picture of all of you. 1, 2, and 3.
Jack Riley, you rock.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're having a really good time today. We did some really good work. We talked about things that we can do later on. We talked about conservatorship, helping our kids get vocational training, and I promised you extra special treat towards the end of the show. We've already had an opportunity to talk to a couple of stand-up comedians, but now we have saved best for last because we have an awesome autism dad, and I was saying to him during the break, I'm proud to know you, Larry Hauser. You are an amazing dad who hit the ground running when your son was diagnosed, and you created Fullerton Cares, and you guys do amazing things. I'm so proud of you and proud to know you, and I think I can't wait to see, you're a young guy, and I can't wait to see what you do with the next 60 years of your life, because you're going to do some amazing things. But this is one of the many amazing things that you do. You have this fabulous comedy event. How did you decide, what made you go, oh, autism and comedy, I'm going to put these two things together?
This is like the beginning of what we've started, basically. Fresh off of just finding out my child was diagnosed with autism, I sent out a little Facebook post to see if anybody would support my walk. Mm-hmm. I was kind of nervous to do the walk. Mm-hmm. I was had a tough time with trying to figure out where my place was with this whole new autism thing.
Yeah,
So
you got to find your place in the community about what you have to bring and how you get what you need in the community.
Right. So we ended up, I ended up putting out the post, and a fellow restaurant, a bar owner, contacted me. He says, Larry, let's do a comedy show. His name is Dan Ebert, and let's do a comedy show at my restaurant. And I said, absolutely. I wasn't sure what to expect. We went forward with the comedy show. We got a headliner by the name of Christopher Reed. He was an old Kid and Play. I think it was Kid. But the community responded. We ended up selling the whole event out, and that was really the start or the start of Fullerton Cares, because I didn't realize how many people cared.
Yeah.
And
Fullerton is the community in which you live.
Right.
And you just glossed over restaurant owner, but when your child was diagnosed, you had something really amazing already going on in your life, that you were opening your own restaurant.
Right.
Which is one of the most incredible restaurants. If you're going to Disneyland, and people always say, I don't know where to go to eat when I'm not at Disneyland, I want to find a great place to go, they have to go to your restaurant. Tell them all about your restaurant and how they can get there. I know you're not big into self-promotion, so I'm making you.
It's Bourbon Street Bar and Grill. It's right there in the Fullerton train station parking lot in Fullerton.
It's beautiful.
And it's
get a good meal.
2 minutes away from both colleges, and we're just a really happening area.
And you're just a hop, skip, and a jump from Disneyland. So when you go to Disneyland, plan on stopping by and seeing Larry and having a wonderful meal at Bourbon Street. Now, I've been so rude and remiss that there's this other gentleman who's sitting here with us that we haven't introduced you. You are another one of the stand-up comedians who's performing on Friday night at this wonderful event.
Yes.
And your name is Keith Reza.
Yes.
And you have something extra to add to this conversation. Do you want to tell us what that is?
I'm not the kid from 2.5 Men. No, I have this thing called Asperger's syndrome.
And that's a very interesting thing for a stand-up comedian to have. We don't see that every day of the week, although we should on a regular basis. And I've been able to watch some of your videos online. You're a very funny young gentleman.
Oh, I thank you.
And when I said to you, how long have you been doing this? I was surprised. How long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
9-10 years.
So either you started very young or you're older than you look.
I'm 27. I started senior year in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when were you diagnosed with Asperger's?
When I was 12.
Okay. So when you said to your folks, okay, I think I want to be a stand-up comedian, how was that? How did they take that?
They were like, why? But no, comedy actually saved me, because I got picked on a lot growing up. So what happened was, I didn't even tell my folks I wanted to be a comedian until I was 20. I went to these coffee shops that had open mics, and I figured, if everyone's laughing at me, what's so funny? So that's how I got into it, because I just started getting on the mic and just talking.
But your comedy is very self-aware.
Yeah.
You bring it up.
Yeah.
And I have to say that it's not an easy line to walk about what's funny and what isn't funny.
Exactly.
But you find exactly the line, and that's a hard thing for a stand-up comedian to do.
I try to, yeah. And it's hard because, with Asperger's, you don't see social cues and you don't know what's appropriate or not appropriate. So, whenever I do shows or whatever, it's either they get me or they don't. And it's very hard because it's never in the middle. It's either you bomb or you kill. So it's yeah.
Well, what I have seen, I think you probably kill more often than you bomb. And honestly, if you're a comedian and you're not occasionally bombing, then you're missing the mark.
Yeah.
Because you're not trying.
Yeah.
We lost 2 comedy greats very recently. We lost Robin Williams and Joan Rivers, and the thing that both of them had in common was that they were fearless, and that they went over the line many times trying to find the line. So I think that you're following in that tradition of taking risks, from what I have seen, and succeeding.
Oh, I thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, it's not every day you get compared to Robin Williams and Joan Rivers. But not the dead part. We don't want you to be the dead part, right? Bless their hearts. So this is an amazing event. What do we want people to know when they get there? I hear there's a red carpet.
Yeah, we have this show event that's held out in the parking lot there, and we have multiple different vendors, and of course you can get drinks and just mix around and prep yourself to laugh.
So a total of 5 or 6 comedians now that I'm hearing.
Well, we have a total of 5, but one person I want to mention. Very special person. His name is George Perez. He's been our host for every show now, and he's the one that has reached out and has looked for our talent along with Brad Williams, and he's really our boy. He's our mainstay, and I just want to give him a ton of credit because he is just such an amazing guy, and just real down to earth like Steve and Jesus and I'm just really happy to be affiliated with them as well.
Okay, so there's not that many tickets left, but there are some tickets left.
Yeah.
So if people want to go, you need to hurry and get your tickets. And the best place for them to go, FullertonCares.com.
Yep, www.fullertoncares.com. Just click on the flyer; it'll take you right to ticketing. And
it's taking place in Fullerton. Where is it at? Bourbon Street, or is it another location?
No, it's at the historic Fullerton Fox Theater. That's not even open to the public.
Okay.
And the city allows us to have our event there because they think it's such a good cause.
Okay, so great event, and then maybe we can talk for just a second about the kinds of things that Fullerton Cares has been able to do because of the amazing fundraisers that you do.
Sure.
Where does that money go? People need to know this because it's good stuff.
Most of the money goes to our efforts within the Fullerton School District, and most autism people would say the district, no way, but our district works with us, and they really are a partner with what we're trying to do. So we basically provide our kiddos with lots of things, lots of technology, lots of means for them to take field trips, and it really a lot of it stays within there, and the rest of it goes to boosting up the special needs programs that we have in Fullerton and the surrounding cities.
You guys have created some amazing things. You created a garden and is there a butterfly garden? There's a garden and then a butterfly garden.
It's a sensory garden.
Sensory garden. That's the word I was looking for.
The sensory garden at Commonwealth Elementary School. It received national attention. We just have teachers there that think outside the box, and we really support what they're trying to achieve.
Well, I gotta say, you do a couple of different events throughout the year. For our viewers that when they watch and they see the What is Autism, that we filmed that. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece, and we filmed that at your event, your Mardi Gras for Autism event, which is a lovely, lovely event. It rained this year on it, but it's it couldn't dampen what was happening there. It was an absolutely amazing thing. And 2 of the first people that I met at that event were from the Fullerton School District. And they were 2 of the first people who wanted to jump and get on the camera and talk about autism and support the community. And I think, so often we have negative things to say sometimes about teachers in schools having to do with autism, but there are good people who are out there who need support and need tools.
Right.
And need funding, and that's what you guys have done. And for anybody who's watching, and if you don't like what's happening in your school district, I hope you'll take a page out of Larry's book, turn it around. I think you already had good people to work with to begin with, but when you gave them that support, I think it has just grown, and they have the ability to think out of the box because they have support.
I believe you hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is so important. That's why I'm so proud to know you, and I hope that everybody who's watching thinks about that. We've been talking all day about the power of one, and that you were just one person who wasn't expecting to have a child diagnosed with autism, but your child.
I was that arrogant bar owner who who was selfish, really selfish before I had my child. And
You thought you had the world by the tail, didn't you?
Thought I had everything, you
Yeah.
know, and now I feel like I have more because I have him.
Yeah. And he is a cute guy, a very cute guy, as are you. But I know we get all emotional here. But this is an important event, FullertonCares.com. Check out this event, and if you can't get to it, check out the other things that they're doing and ask yourself, what can I take from this and bring to my community? I think that's a worthwhile thing to do. And I salute you so much, and I think that it's awesome what you're doing. I'm so thrilled that you're going to be a part of this event, but I'm also thrilled that you're doing stand-up and blazing your own trail for people to be able to see the amount of awareness that you have to be raising.
Yeah, that's my goal with the comedy, is make people laugh and know that people who are autistic can, you know, achieve their dreams. So.
Well, and, you know, for people to be able to see that, we can talk about it endlessly, but somebody like yourself gets up and you're hilariously funny, and you're able to talk about these things, and it creates an environment of acceptance.
Oh, well,
and
thank you.
Heaven knows we need that. We need that more than anything else. So we're here at the end of the show. I'm going to ask you guys to stay as we just power through our last little things, but I want to bring up FullertonCares.com. This event is happening this Friday. What time is it starting again?
The show actually starts at 8 o'clock, but the pre-show starts at 6 o'clock.
And you don't want to miss that. You have to get there, do the red carpet, and see all that. See and be seen, right?
Right.
That's the whole thing. Rub elbows, meet people, experience the hope. Okay, FullertonCares.com. I will also tell you that tomorrow on the show, we will have Dr. Doreen Grampachet in the first hour. You're not going to want to miss that. She's answering your questions for Ask Dr. Doreen. You can be sending your questions in right now. Then in the second hour, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We're going to have two special guests with us tomorrow. The first, we're having Special Spirit. It's equine therapy, talking about using horses. And then we're also playing our interview that we did on Monday with Dr. Bob Sears. There's been a lot of commotion about the CDC whistleblower, and a lot of voices saying a lot of things. And I really believe that Dr. Bob Sears is one of the clearest voices talking about what questions this has raised. Unfortunately, it hasn't given us any answers, but there's some pretty important questions and some things we can be doing to move this conversation forward to the point where we can all be comfortable. So we're going to play that interview. You can see just a snippet of it right now on our YouTube page or on our Facebook page to see a little bit of that interview. But I encourage you, this is really the voice of reason tomorrow with Dr. Bob Sears. We are totally out of time. I want to thank all of our guests today, all 6 of them, and I hope that you guys will be with us here tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.